Hi, everybody. Welcome to BS of the Week, episode 15. We are in a little gap as the R&Rs take a break for season 35, mid-season break. Last week, we reviewed the week 2 games, and this week, we're going to look forward a little bit. And I'm the coach of the Berlin Fire, Patrick Driggett, and I'm joined by my friends.
Hi there, I'm Kevin Lucy from the Glasgow Rushmores, and we have a special guest this week who is...
Hi there, it's Chris Weeks, and I am the coach of the Santa Rosa Chargers.
Welcome. Yeah, we're really glad to have you, Chris. I always love hearing your voice
Chris.
on here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Glad we got you on video. We had some fun tech support at the beginning of this call, and then despite all of our efforts, then it just magically started working. So,
Yeah, so unfortunately, you do have to look at me.
Well, no, it's okay. They have to stare at us the whole time anyway. So, yeah, so this week we're going to talk a little bit about some predictions, looking ahead, and that kind of stuff. We're going to ask some questions of Mr. Weeks and see what's going on there at the Chargers, and that's about it. So, yeah, Kev, why don't you talk about the PFC?
Okay, looking at the PFC, so before we sort of look into it in great depth, this goes without saying, really, that you've got to, if you're going to win a divisional championship, you have to beat the teams in your division. So all those games that are interdivisional games are obviously of a very, very high importance. However, you've also got to have a look at the rest of your schedule to see just who you're playing. For example, if you're lucky enough to be playing the Rivets and the Statesmen and the Phoenix and the Hornets, you're going to have one heck of a good season. Not, so it doesn't really matter how many of your interdivisional rivals you beat, you're going to struggle to beat some of those teams. So what I've done is I've looked ahead a little bit at who's playing outside of their division, and what teams that people are playing outside of their own particular division. Now, the week 1 of the preseason, Patrick, you predicted that the Generals would win the PFC East, and I think I'm going to back you up on that one.
All right.
I think, despite the results so far, that the Generals are still the favourites to win, because yes, they've got their interdivisional games to go, but not the only, that sounds disrespectful, but one of the toughest games that they've got is in week 4 against the Hornets. But every other week, I think the games outside their own division are very, very winnable. If you look at who's in contention with them, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but we've got the Rapiers, who are playing against the Maroons this week, and that is a massive game. Mm-hmm. That's a massive game for both the Maroons and the Rapiers. I think that will define to a certain extent whether the challenge could be on or not. In fact, it's for both teams, but we'll go into that in a little more detail. And then in week 10, the Rapiers also play the Titans, which will be a very tough game. So I think they've got a bit of a harder run-in, as it were, than the Generals have. The Rough Riders, they've got a tough old thing. They play the Rivets this week coming up, which is never an easy game. Then they play the 66ers, and they've got the Bay Packers as well.
Well, the surprise 66ers, right? Like the
surprise
climbing.
66ers. Yeah. And the Bay Packers in there. So I'm not sure whether they can be hopeful of a divisional title. Moving on into the North, obviously, the Rivets, to be quite honest, you can't see past them. And again, that's no disrespect to the Maroons or the Surfers. The battle really in the North is for who's going to be the runner-up and whether that's going to be sufficient to get them a playoff position. And it's interesting because the Maroons have got both teams have got some tough games, to be quite honest. The Maroons' advantage, if you like, over the Surfers is that they've already played the Rivets. The Surfers have still got to play the Rivets twice, which is not going to be that easy. Maroons also have to play the Rapiers and the Titans. Again, 2 quite difficult games, whilst the Surfers, Patrick, have to play the Fire. And they also have to play the Eagles. So, again, not too bad, but you can't really see past the rivets, to be quite honest.
Mhm.
I think that one of the playoff places, however, could come from either the Maroons or the Surfers. And the Surfers, Gary's Surfers have done very, very well so far.
Yeah, great team.
Bit of a surprise package to me, to be quite honest. I'd overlooked them a little bit, but they could give the Maroons a run for their money. So Scott's got a bit of a battle on his hands there, because I think whoever comes second in that division will probably reach the playoffs. Looking at the South, we've got the Eagles, and again, you predict the Eagles, Patrick, and I really, now, having looked at the results so far, I think you're correct. I think the Eagles will win it. The surprise package there, again, to a certain extent, well, that's probably been a bit unfair, are the Warriors. They're looking very good at the moment. The Eagles still have got the Stormers to play, they've got the Sharks to play, and they've got the Surfers to play. 3 pretty tricky games. The Warriors have got the Packers, the Rough Riders, and of course the Rivets. So that one is really going to boil down to who wins the game between the Eagles and the Warriors. I think that's going to be a real important matchup there. And then moving on to the West, I think you predicted the Titans. I'm actually going to go for the Packers here. The Titans haven't started that well, and when I look at their program, if you like, they've still got to play the Maroons and they've still got to play the Rapiers. The tough game that the Packers have got is the Rivets, but other than that, I think they should, and again, I don't mean in a disrespectful way to any of the teams that are playing, but I think they're quite capable of winning all their other games. And the Stormers are the one that are doing quite well, but they've still got to play the Eagles and the Surfers. So my predictions would be alongside yours: Generals, Rivets, Eagles, and the only difference would be the Packers.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the Packers are a strong team, and I think that's shows how competitive that division is, honestly.
Yeah. Now, when you get to the playoffs, basically this one is really going to be tight. You've got the Rapiers in with a shout. You've got the Maroons in with a shout. The Surfers in with a shout. The Eagles, all the Warriors, whoever, I think the Warriors. And of course, we've still got the Titans and the Stormers to talk about. So that's quite a long list. Historically, in the LFC, playoff people have gone in with a 6 and 4. Whereas in the PFC, you usually have to have a 7 and 3 season to actually get into the playoffs. I've got a funny feeling this could be a lot tighter this year, and that you might get into the playoffs with a 6 and 4, but we shall see. So that's my predictions of what's going on. In terms of next week, one of the games to watch out for, Rough Riders against the Rivets, obviously. I think the Rivets will win that one. Rapiers against the Maroons is going to be a very tight battle. And then, ironically, there are 2 or 3 games in week 10 that could decide one heck of a lot. So you've got the Rough Riders against the Bay Packers. You've got the Titans against the Rapiers. All week 10 fixtures.
So, we'll have to keep tracking those, and see. It'll be exciting if that comes true.
Yeah. So that's my predictions for what's going on in the PFC. Chris, welcome to the show, and let's have your predictions for what's happening in the LFC.
Right. Well, thanks for that, Kev. Well, it's so tight. That's the thing. I mean, I know it's early doors. It's early part of the season, but you're defined now, aren't you? You start weeks 3 and 4. If you're 0-2 and you go 0-3, you're in trouble, because trying to claw it back, like you just said, you've got to win 7-6 games, to have a chance of making the playoffs. You go 0-3, and a lot of these games next week, I should say, not this coming week, they are tight. There are a lot of tight games, and a lot of games that will probably be decided by home field advantage, I think. There's, in terms of predicting down the road, it's difficult to look past the teams that aren't already 2-0, because if you're 0-2, the pressure's on. You can't lose many games. So for me, I really can't see past the Sharks at the moment. they're so balanced. Yeah. Everybody else is, to my mind, I mean, I could be proven wrong this week because a lot of the games, as I say, we'll start to see a bit of a difference this week. Yeah. The cream will start to rise, I suppose, teams that go 3-0. But no, I just personally, yeah, I mean, Phoenix are playing well. Yeah. Hornets are playing well. Yeah. 66ers are surprising everybody. But for my money, no, I think it's Ben Sharks. Yeah, I just can't see past them. I really can't. Of course, it'll all change this week when they go and lose, and then I'll look a complete fool.
What's your take on the Statesman?
On the Statesman, well, I think you kind of expect the Statesman to be good. Lee's always done a great job with his teams, but he's had a rough start this season.
Right,
so, I don't know. Can he pull it back? I mean, I'd like to think so. He's 0-2 and I'm 0-2, and I'd like to think he can come back and we all can.
Yeah, I really think we see him kind of come up at the end of the season looking like a challenger, in my opinion. So we'll see.
Yeah. Mind you, as Chris says, again, speaking from a position of knowledge, being 0-2, it's tough to come back because you can't really afford any more slip-ups. And you've also got your interdivisional game again. He's got to play the Phoenix one more time. So, yeah, I tend to think with Chris, it's like, if you're 0-2, certainly for 0-3, you're out of the playoffs, I think.
Sorry, Chris. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, but he's got the Sixers this week. Now the Sixers are surprising everybody. Yeah. So, this could be close in itself, but it really has got to go to the air because the Sixers, they're giving up nothing on the ground. Yeah. So Lee's got to go to the air with this game, and we all know what happens when you go to the air. If you start having to throw the ball on every down. Yeah, you're throwing interceptions, So this could be a massive game, one way or the other, for both the Statesmen and for the Sixers.
Yeah, and Lee's not really known for his aerial threats. He's an on the ground guy.
Yeah. But having said all that, yeah, my game of the week, yeah, or next week, I should say, I can't wait for the Knights against the Irish because both of them are just throwing it at will. Yeah. Having said that, they're throwing it at will. They're throwing for lots of yards. Yeah. But they're both intercepting the ball. Yeah. Now I can see this game ending with whoever has the ball last. Yeah. This could be a real high scoring. Yeah. I'm going to watch this play by play and enjoy every second of it because I really do think this should be an absolute cracker.
That's awesome. Yeah. I can't wait for a good shootout. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't disagree with you, Chris. I think that's, as you say, it's just like just throw it. Doesn't matter what happens. Just keep throwing it. We'll get incepted, but we'll just shift it another 100 yards.
Well, that's what it's. I think that's what it boils down to. Yeah, you could have two teams well over 400 yards each in this game because neither one of them can defend the pass. All they can do is intercept. Yeah, or we might have a lot of interception returns for touchdowns. Who knows?
No defend, only throw. Awesome. Yeah, well, and Kev and I are gonna play. I'm gonna try to go do my own Rushmoring with the Rushmores, and we'll see.
Very good, Patrick.
Oh, I don't think it was that good.
I hope you didn't work on that one for too long.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I'm not a professional comedian.
I've got to be. You're up against it this week, Kev. You really are.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll wave the white flag already.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna get a shock when he sees my tactics, though.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, just don't injure any of my players, please. I don't need last season where Rasmussen was injured for like 7 weeks.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Oh, come on! You keep using that as an excuse.
He's getting old. He's close to retirement. He needs to be coddled. Awesome. Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to share with the LFC, Chris?
No, it's such a tight week. Yeah. I mean, I went through all the games for next week. And a lot of them are so close, but it's almost like the decisive week for me. Week 3, if you go 0-3, yeah, the chances of you making the playoffs virtually nil. You go 3-0, you're in with a good chance. Yeah, the ones that are sitting at 1-1 could go either way. Yeah, but 3-0, and you're hopeful. 0-3, and you're not. And I should know because I'm looking at 0-3.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Well,
Patrick, whilst we've got Chris here, do you want
yeah.
to ask him a few questions?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah. So, Chris, last week we had our friend here ask a couple questions. Sam was wonderful and answered those, and so I've prepared a couple for you. Starting, looking at the beginning of the season, you just talked about some of the losses of the Chargers. You had a tough week 1 loss to the Generals. You had a blowout, suffered from week 2 from while you were going against the Maroons. How do you compare the early results of that season to how you were thinking the season was going to go in the preseason when you were looking at those 2 games?
Right. Well, I'll be perfectly honest. I looked at my first 3 games and I thought I'm really up against it. I knew I was up against it. Start off with the Generals, then the Maroons, then the Surfers. To make matters worse, the Maroons away and the Surfers away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, I actually genuinely thought that my best chance of getting a win in those first 3 games was against the Generals, because I did okay. I mean, don't get me wrong, I lost both last season, but I lost a tight one at home last season. And this one was just as tight and more irritating than the previous one. 5 fumbles. 2 when I was 10 points in the lead with 7 minutes to play, leading to 2 scores for them. Went to overtime and they missed a field goal. But then they get, I think what was so mind-blowing for me was I managed to hold Hooker. Yeah, the whole game plan was hold Hooker, stop him running the ball. Yeah, and I managed to do that until overtime when he had a 46-yard draw.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that was the end of the game because he kicked the field goal and he won it. Yeah. Now, kudos to Alex. I'm not taking anything away, but I was absolutely gutted. Yeah. The Maroons, I knew I would lose to the Maroons. My problem is I cannot stop the run game. And that means I have to go all out. I have to spend all of my CPs on it. Yeah. And my game plan has to try and stop it. But then you leave yourself susceptible to the pass. So when I come up against a team who can run and pass, I'm in trouble, and I knew that in advance. So I really had to beat the Generals and didn't. I knew I wouldn't beat the Maroons, and now I've got the Surfers. So unfortunately, I think I'm staring at 0-3. Yeah.
Well, we'll be wishing you luck anyway.
I will need a lot of luck.
Yeah, they haven't started I don't think the feature is in yet to donate CPs to other teams. I'm not saying I would give you any of mine, but I just, maybe someone.
The problem is, Patrick, I look at it. I look at the rest of the schedule. Yeah, I've got the Generals again. I've got the Rapiers. Yeah, I got the Eagles. I just, you've got to accept when you're a beaten man, and I'm a beaten man.
Well, we appreciate it, and hopefully that doesn't take the fun out of it too much. I think you're doing a great job managing the team and building. That kind of leads me to my next question. You were 6-4 during this first season with your team, 2-8 second season, sophomore slump, and then last year you were 6-4 again, right? Like, definitely seemed like you had learned some things. What have you learned that allowed you to improve so much going into your 3rd season, right, between 2 and 3, and how do you think that'll impact this season?
Well, unfortunately, it's impacting the season badly. But no, first of all, let me start off by saying something. Yeah, I was a bit of a fool when I came in because I've only played 3 seasons. I was a bit of an idiot, and I thought that I'll pick it up as I go. Yeah. Now, if you're new to this league and you can get a mentor because I wasted my first 2 seasons bumbling about, not really knowing what I was doing. And I was just winging it. And I learned some pretty nasty lessons, really, particularly in terms of the roster. So 6 and 4, the first season, I didn't really change much because I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Second season, I threw the baby out with the bathwater, and I started making roster cuts I should never have made. Yeah, because I wanted to put my stamp on the team. Well, I did that, and I went 2 and 8. So what I learned was, don't tinker too much with your roster. Look at your best players and keep your best players. Yeah. I mean, I got frustrated, and we all do. We get frustrated with players that don't pop. You keep throwing CPs at them, and they don't come up in level. And you think, oh, stuff him, I'll throw him out. Yeah. And I did that. And I got rid of some, and I didn't even trade some of them. I just threw them away.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And I think that was the thing that I learned, was really consider your roster. And I mean, don't get me wrong, aging really has a massive impact. Yeah. I had 2 good nose tackles, well, defensive tackles, but they were aging and dropping levels, and I didn't replace them quick enough. Yeah. But it's roster planning. Yeah, I think that's the key to it. You've got to look ahead, and you've got to think, well, what happens when they drop 3 levels and they're age 9? You know, and yeah. I think that's the difference. That's the crucial bit. You know, it's just being more aware of your roster.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you for sharing that. So a question I asked last week that's just fun for me, and I'm going to ask you the same one I asked Sam, which is R&R reach out. They're back from their break, and they said, Chris, we really enjoy what you're contributing to this game. We'd like you to be responsible for designing next year's draft class, and you have the first pick of this draft that you just created. Who's the number 1 pick? Who are you picking up?
Well, do you remember when I traded with you? Yeah. And I dropped out of the top 10. And the reason I dropped out of the top 10 was because I knew I wasn't getting the player that I really, really, really wanted. Yeah. And that was the elite nose tackle. And he went second. And if I could have my time again and have the first overall pick, yeah, I would have an elite nose tackle, which he was, yeah, with a 65 strength, which he was. And that was the pick I coveted that I knew I would never get. Hence why I traded out. Yeah. So that's what I go for.
That's a great pick. Yeah, I'd love that. I'm running a 3-3 just because I can't put enough of a defensive tackle, you know, on the line. So I get it. That's great pick. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, you know, for being here, Chris. We appreciate you answering all the questions. Kev, thank you for your excellent thoughts on the PFC. That was awesome. And Chris, yours on the LFC. We really appreciated it. It was a pleasure having everyone here. You know, we'll see what we're brewing up for next week, just to fill the time.
We have a guest all lined up for next week.
Oh, surprise! Who are we telling?
No, I'm just keeping it a secret.
Keep it
You'll
a secret.
find
Awesome.
out on the night. Yeah.
I feel like I'll need to know, so I can send them an invite. But later, not here.
Depends how many you beat me by.
Okay, well, that's not gonna happen until after. So unless you invented a time machine.
True. True.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So again, we have a week and a half until our next game. You know, look, one thing we talked about last season. This happens sometimes. People forget. Right after your games, go in and just save your game plan through, so you get the 4 green check marks. That way, if you forget what's going on in this big gap, the games can still run. Yes, you'll probably get mauled, but that's on you. It doesn't make it more difficult for the GMs running this game. So, you know, please just be cognizant that the schedule is another week and a half. Get your game plan ready so that, you know, you don't forget. You know, we're really excited to see all of those things happening, and we will see everyone on the next episode.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.